We are Group 26, Mo Molly, Mo Problems. Our goal is to reduce Molly use among college students in Southern California universities. We will do this by having a presence at these schools with workshops, developing a curriculum which teaches the dangers of Molly, and using an evaluation to compare students' knowledge before and after our intervention.
Our study objectives include having our program established within our target universities, USD, UCSD, SCSU by fall 2017. 95% of our undergraduate students that have completed our seminar will be able to identify the 5 dangers of Molly consumptions. 90% of students will be able to recognize peer pressures associated with Molly use and effectively avoid them. After having undergone the seminar, 75% of the students will have reported that they intend to avoid the consumption of Molly.
The purpose of a conceptual model is to highlight the main outcome that our program plans to measure, and further allows people to understand the subject that the model itself represents. Our conceptual model is framed initially with the individual's beliefs on the dangers of Molly and their willingness to conform, which is associated with peer and subjective norms. The individual's intention to take the drug will dictate whether or not they decide to consume the drug.
Measurements will be made on a subjective and qualitative basis. A survey will be administered to both the experimental and control group. The survey will ask respondents to answer questions that will test both their knowledge of and experience with the drug. For our nominal measurement, we ask whether or not subjects have used Molly before. For our ordinal measurement, we will ask whether or not they would consume Molly if it were offered to them by their best friend. For our ratio measurement, we will ask the individual, during the past 30 days, how many times have you taken Molly? 0 times, 1 to 2 times, 3 to 4 times, or 5 or more times?
For our research design, we will be adopting the randomized experimental study. This particular design is best fit for our study because the strict random assignment of subjects ensures that the 2 groups are equivalent on all significant dimensions, and that no systematic differences exist between the experimental and control groups. It also governs the timing of the independent variable in which group will be exposed to it. The experimental group will differ from the control group because it will receive influence from the independent variable. Lastly, it provides control over the conditions under which the experiment takes place. The intervention of the independent variable is the only factor that is assumed to produce the observed changes in the values of the dependent variable.
In order to implement our program, we will have to work together with the 3 universities. 100 of the incoming freshmen from each university will be randomly selected. The subjects will be arbitrarily assigned to the treatment or control groups with 50 individuals in each group. A pretest will be administered to all subjects in both groups. Once this is completed, the experimental group is then exposed to the independent variable, which is the seminar. At the end of the study, a post-test will be administered to all subjects in both groups. The data collected from the post-test will be assessed to determine the amount of change that has occurred on the dependent variable. To minimize bias, the assessment from the pretest to the post-test will be conducted separately for each group.
Our 16-week program will begin with a pretest and the first seminar session. Students will attend a new seminar once every 3 weeks for the remainder of the 16 weeks. At the end of the program, all participating students will be asked to take a post-test. The results will then be compared, analyzed, and then shared with the school's officials.
The advantages of our research design include increased internal-ability due to randomization. The use of qualitative data provides more rich and in-depth topics. Our experimental design provides greater control over confounding variables. The limitations of our research design include possible threats to external validity, such as not using a blind study, social desirability, expectancy effect, and the Hawthorne effect. Use of qualitative data also has certain disadvantages, such as recall error, selective perceptions, and desire to please the interviewer.
That's all, folks.